Hi Infotech students, Mrs. Pancoke here. Today we're going to be learning about using advanced formulas in lesson 10. So the objectives are basically we're going to be using the sum if, count if, average if. We're going to perform logical operations using the if function. And we're going to modify text using formulas by using the right, left, mid, upper, lower, proper, and concatenate formulas. Alright, this one right here, concatenate, is an important one in your test. So keep that in mind. So, basically we're going to be working with criteria and arguments. Criteria can be a number, text, or expression that tests which cells to sum, count, or average, and the values that functions uses to perform operations or calculations is a formula. So we're going to go ahead and open up this 10 Fabricam solution. It should look like this, and we're going to go to File, Save As. If you haven't made one yet, go ahead and make a new folder and name it Lesson 10. I'm going to move that one. And then we're going to name it Fabricam Sales Solution. Okay, and so you should have your document open to look something like this. If you need to, make sure you always press Enable Editing. So we're going to be using the sum if function. So range is the range of cells that you want the function to evaluate. Criteria is a condition or criterion in the form of a number, expression, or text entry that defines which cells will be added. And then the sum range is the cells to add if the corresponding rows, cells, and the range match the criteria. Now up here is a list of the formulas and how they look when you put the information in, and it also gives you a description. So if you get lost or you forget, what cell is what, page 171 will have your answer for that. Alright, so let's click in cell H5, step 2, page 172, and we're going to click the Formulas tab, and we're going to click on the Math and Trig button, and we're going to scroll till we find sum if. Okay, there we have it. Okay, when we do that, this dialog box opens up. Now, whenever you're doing sum if or any of these other functions, you're going to want to use this dialog box. It makes things a heck of a lot easier to type in your formula. So step 3 says in the function arguments dialog box, click the collapse dialog box for range, and this allows you to see more of your worksheet. We're going to select cells C5 through C16 and press enter. By doing this, you apply the cell range that the formula will use in the calculation. In the criterion box, we're going to type the greater than sign and 200,000. Okay, and then press the tab key. Figure 10.2 shows that the sum range text box is not bold, so you can see this. It's not a bolded text. This means that this argument is optional. If you leave the sum range blank, Excel sums the cells that you enter in the range box. Okay, you now apply your criterion to sum all values that are greater than 200,000 in the range C5 through C6. So we're going to click OK. Alright. It says that it is not necessary to type dollar amount signs or commas when entering dollar amounts in the function arguments dialog box. If you type them, Excel removes them from the formula and returns an accurate value. In the cells in column H where you will enter formulas, they have already been formatted for this data. Okay, so click OK to accept the changes and close the dialog box. You will see that 1,657,100 of Fabricam's December revenue came from the property values exceeding 200,000. If for some reason you need to edit the formula, select the cell that contains the function and then click on the Insert Function dialog box, and you can go in and edit your box. It says, take note, the result of SUMIF formula in H5 does not include the property value in C15. This is because the formula specified values greater than 200,000. To include this value, the criterion would have to be greater than or equal to. So you'd have to put in an equal sign. So click OK or hit Escape, and then we're going to select cell H6. And in the function library, we're going to click on Recently Used, and we're going to choose SUMIF again. This time we're going to sum the properties that sold for a percentage difference of less than 3%. So choose SUMIF. And then when you click Recently Used, the last function that you used appears at the top of the list. Similarly, if you hit Insert Function, that dialog box will open with the last used function highlighted. So we're going to collapse the range dialog box, and we're going to select cells E5 through E16. The selected range is automatically entered into the text box. Press the Tab key. Here, let's uncollapse. We're going to hit Tab. And then in the criterion, we're going to type in the we're going to type in the less than sign and 3%, and then press Tab. It says you do not need to collapse the dialog box as you did in step 3. You can directly highlight the range in the dialog box as long as it's not in the way. Another option is to move the dialog box by dragging the title bar. So in the criterion box, we type that 3%, and then we're going to use the sum range for this one. So in the sum range field, select the cells C5 through C16. Whoops, let's fix that. 16. Okay, the formula in H6 is different than the formula in H5. In H6, the criterion range is different than the sum range. In H5, the criterion range and the sum range are the same. In H6, the SUMIF checks for values in column E that are less than 3% and finds the value in the same row and column in column C and adds this to the total. Click OK to accept your changes. Okay, and you should have gotten a return of 1,134,200. It says to save your workbook. Okay, and so you use SUMIF for these two formulas or functions. Now we're going to be using SUMIFs with an S on the end. So let's click on cell H7. It says up here that the SUMIFs function adds cells in a range that meet multiple criteria. It is important to note that the order of arguments in this function is different from the order used with SUMIF. Alright, so in H7 we're going to click the Insert Function button, and in the search box we're going to type SUMIFs, and we're going to click Go. Whoops. Cancel. Try that again. Oh. SUMIFs. Click this Go button. There it is. Alright, and then we're going to click OK. It says that in the function arguments dialog box, in the sum range box, we're going to select cells C5 through C16. Okay, this adds the cell range to the argument of the formula. In the criteria range 1 box, it says that we need to select cells F5 through F16. In the criteria 1 box, we're going to type the less than or equal to 60. Okay, this specifies that you want to calculate only those values that are less than or equal to 60. When you move to the next text box, notice that Excel places quotation marks around the criteria. It applies these marks to let you itself know that this is a criterion and not a calculated value. Alright, so now in the criteria 2 box, we're going to select cells C5 through C16. You are now choosing your second cell range. In the criteria 2 box, we're going to type in greater than sign 200,000 and then click OK. So you now applied a second criterion that calculates the values greater than 200,000. Excel calculates your formula returning a value of 742,000. So this is the sum of properties listed 60 days or less valued at more than 200,000. Next, we're going to choose cell H8. We're going to click on Recently Used and choose SUMIFs. Okay, and it tells us to select the range of C5 through C16. You can press the Tab key, and we're going to choose F5 through F16. Alrighty, and then in criteria 1, we're going to type less than or equal to 60. Okay, and then we're going to choose E5 through E16 for criteria 2, and then the less than 3% in criteria 2 box. We're going to click OK. Alright, you should have got a return of 433,000. We're going to click the Save, and then it says to pause, leave the workbook open for the next exercise. Alright, so next we're going to be using the COUNTIF function. The COUNTIF function counts the number of cells in a given range that meets a specific condition. So we're going to be clicking in cell H9, and we're going to choose the More Functions button, and we're going to select Statistical, and then find the COUNTIF formula. So in the function arguments dialog box, in the range, we're going to select B5 through B16. Okay, for our range, and then in the criteria box, we're going to type the greater than or equal to 200,000, and then press Tab. It says preview the result and then click OK. Okay, so the result should be 9, and we're going to click OK. It says you set the criteria of values greater than 200,000 or equal to 200,000. Excel returns a value of 9. In cell H10, we're then going to use the library function and choose recently used. Select count if, and for our range, we're going to select the range of C5 through C16. And in the criteria box, we're going to type in greater than or equal to 200,000. And then it says to press tab. Okay, preview the result. It tells you the result right here when you press the tab key. And then when we click OK, you should have a value of 7. So there were 7 cells that were greater than or equal to 200,000 in column C. And step 7 says to save the workbook. Pause, leave the workbook open to use the next exercise. The next formula we're going to use is count ifs. So select cell H11, and in the function library group we're going to click insert function. And in the search for function box we're going to type count ifs. Click go. Okay, and then you're going to select the function count ifs by clicking OK. You should see the function arguments box open up. And in the criteria range, we're going to select cells F5 through F16. And in the criteria 1, we're going to type the greater than or equal to 60, and then press tab. The descriptions and tips for each argument box and the function argument box are replaced with the value. When you move to the next argument box, the function result is displayed. So here's the function result right there. The formula result is also displayed, enabling you to review and make corrections if the error message occurs or an unexpected result is returned. Now you set the first criterion. Excel shows a calculation up to this step as a value of 8. So in criterion range 2, we're going to select the cells E5 through E16. Press the tab key, and then in criteria 2 we're going to type the greater than equal to 5%. Press the tab key, click OK, and Excel returns a value of 2. So this is a number of properties listed 60 days or more, and list price reduced by 5% or more. So there's 2 of those properties. Save the workbook. It says to pause and leave the workbook open to use the next exercise. Right here it says take note. When you create formulas, you can use the wildcard characters, which are question mark and the asterisk in your criteria. A question mark matches any single character, and an asterisk matches any number of characters. If you want to find an actual question mark or asterisk, type a grave accent predecessing the character. So we're going to click in cell H12 next, and we're going to be using average if. So the average if function returns the arithmetic mean of all the cells in the range that meet a given criteria. So in H12, we're going to choose more functions, and we're going to select statistical, and then we're going to choose average. In the number 1 box, we're going to type B5 to B16, and then we're going to click OK. It says that a mathematical average for this range is returned. Okay. So for B5 through B16, this is the average. We're going to select cell H13, click on Insert Function, and select Average If from the list, click OK. And then from the function list, or use the function search box to locate and accept average if function. Okay, in the average if dialog box for range, we're going to select cells B5 through B16. And then in the criteria box, we're going to type the greater than or equal to 200,000. And then in the average range, select the cells B5 through B16. And then press the Tab key. Whoops, let's see. To preview the formula, so it's going to return a value of 63.33. Click OK to close out of it, and then we're going to hit save. So pause, leave the workbook open to use in the next exercise. Next we're going to be using average ifs. An average ifs formula returns the average of all cells that meet multiple criteria. So select cell H14, and then in the function library group, we're going to click Insert Function, choose Average Ifs, and you can either type it in here or, if you see it down here, go ahead and select it, click OK. So for the average range, we're going we're going to choose F5 through F16. It says to press the Tab key, and then in the criteria range 1 box, we're going to select the range B5 through B16. Press the Tab key, and in the criteria 1, we're going to type the greater than. Less than 200,000. And then for the criteria 2 box, we're going to choose the range of E5 through E16. Okay, press Tab. It says that you have selected your second criteria range, and then in the criteria 2 box, we're going to type the less than or equal to 5%. Press Tab. Okay, you should get a return of 60, and then click OK. So this is the average days on market for properties listed less than 200,000 and price reduced by 5% or less. Alright, so we're going to save the workbook and close it. Alrighty, next we're moving on to using formulas to look up data in a workbook. So lookup functions are an efficient way to search for and insert a value in a cell when desired value is stored elsewhere in the worksheet or even in a different worksheet or workbook. So Vlookup and H Lookup are 2 lookup functions that you can use in this section. Alright. As you work through the following exercise, note that the term table refers to a range of cells in a workbook that can be used by a lookup function, and that the data in a table array must be arranged in rows and columns. So we're going to go ahead and search to find our lesson 10 Fabricam bonus. Okay, enable the editing, and we're going to save as in our lesson 10 folder, Fabricam bonus solution. With the performance sheet active, we're going to select cells A15 through C20 in the worksheet, and click the Formulas tab, and in the Define Names group, we're going to click Define Names, and the New Name dialog box opens. In the New Name dialog box, in the Name box, we're going to type bonus, and then click OK. Alright, so we're going to click in cell E5, and in the Function Libraries group, we're going to choose Lookup and Reference, and we're going to choose Vlookup. Okay, the Vlookup function arguments dialog box opens, and in the Vlookup value or lookup value text box, we're going to type B5, then press the tab key. The insertion point moves to the table array box. In the Define Name group on the Formulas tab, we're going to choose Use in Formula, and we're going to select Bonuses. Then press Tab. The insertion point moves to the next text box, and then in the column index number, we're going to type 2, which is the column containing the individual bonus amounts. Press the tab key. In the range lookup box, we're going to type true, which means Vlookup can check for the nearest value. It does not go over the number in the first column. The same bonus is paid for a range of years, so you enter true in the range lookup box so that the value will be returned for all agents. The function arguments dialog box should look similar to the one shown on 1017. Okay, we're going to click OK, and Excel returns a value of 2.5%. Says use the fill handle to copy the range from E5 through E11. So I'm copying the range. This calculates bonus ranges for the other sales agents. The hashtag NA error message appears in cell E11 because the value is not available for agents who have been employed for less than 1 year. Agents become eligible for bonus after 1 full year of employment. So next we're going to click in cell F5, and we're going to type the following formula: Vlookup parentheses B5, comma, bonus, there's bonus, comma, 3, parentheses. Click enter. It says notice that the screen tip gives you information to help you as you go. This looks up values in the third column of the bonus range. Okay, because we have this B5. And so it looks up the third column, back office bonus, right here. Notice that the screen tip gives you help, and when you press enter, you should get a result of 1%. It says to copy the formula from F5 to the range F6 through F11. Okay. And we're going to save the workbook. Alright, next we're going to be using H Lookup. H in the H Lookup stands for horizontal. H Lookup searches horizontally for values in the top row of a table or an array, and then returns a value in the same column from a row you specify in the table or array. H Lookup then the comparison values are located in a row across the top table of data you want to look in a specified row. See figure 10-8. So here we have our value. So the H lookup value right here is feet, and the table array is this yellow box. So then goes down the row of the index numbers. H lookup goes horizontally across the first row until there is a match with the H lookup value, which is 1000. Okay, so on the standard sheet, we're going to move to the standards worksheet, and we're going to click in cell F11, and then in the function library group we're going to choose lookup and reference, and we're going to select H lookup. Okay, in the lookup value text box we're going to type E11. Alright, so E11, this is the cell you will change at the end, change and the box previews to feet, because that is what currently is typed in E11. So it says feet right here. Okay, and then in the table array text box, we're going to type A1 through D11, or D7. You could select the range like this as well. In the row index numbers, we're going to type D11 plus 1. Okay, this currently evaluates to 3. If you refer to the number of beds in D11, which is 2, you don't come down enough rows because of the labels in the first row of the table array. The number of beds is actually 1 row more than the number of beds because of the labels up here. So D11 plus 3, or plus 1, is correct. And then in the range lookup, we're going to type false in all caps, because you don't want an exact match. And then we're going to click OK. Alright, we should have gotten a result of 1000. In the following steps, you will change the values in D11 and E11 to see what happens when there are different values and when there is not an exact match. So in D11, we're going to type 5. Notice that the results in F5 change to 250 when I hit the tab key. And in cell E11, we're going to type CO2. Okay, and then hit tab. And notice that result is 3. So it changes the results to the CO2 column instead of feet. So we're going to click in cell D11 and type 7. Oops. Control Z. D11, we're going to type 7. Okay, notice that you get a reference error because the table only goes up to 5 beds, which is 3. So in cell D11, let's type 1. Notice that F11 displays a result of 1. Save the workbook, and we're going to move on. It says that it might be difficult to remember the syntax for H Lookup or Vlookup function. You can always use the function argument dialog box to help you remember the order of arguments for any of or all of the functions. Alright, next we're going to be adding conditional logic functions to formulas. So you can use the and or functions to create conditional formulas that result in a logical value that is true or false. Such formulas test whether a series of conditions evaluate true or false. Alright, so we're going to click on the Performance tab to make it the active worksheet, and then click in cell G5. And in the function library group, we're going to choose logical and select if. Alright, so in the logical test box, we're going to type D5 greater than or equal to C5. Okay, and then if true, we're going to type yes. And if the value is no, we're going to false, we're going to type no. So if D5 is greater than or equal to C5, this component of the formula determines whether the agent has met his or her sales goal. So if D5 is greater than or equal to their sales goal, we'll get a yes. If it is not greater than or equal to, we'll see a no. And then we're going to click OK. And with, you know what, I'm going to edit this. Needed to capitalize no. Okay. And then with G5 still selected, we're going to use the fill handle to copy the formula from G to G6 through G12. So I'm going to copy this down. It says Excel returns the result that 3 agents earned the performance award by displaying yes in the cells. It says, take note, the entire company is evaluated on making the sale the goal. The bonuses are awarded to the back office staff if the company goal is met. The result in G12 will be used for the formula in column I when you copy the format. The format is included. So we're going to click on this Fill Options button in the lower right corner of the range and choose Fill without formatting. Because we still want to see the lines, and this no should be bolded. Alright, in cell H5, we're going to type in an if statement. So choose if it equals G5 is equal to yes, comma, then we want to multiply E5 times D5, and if it is false, we're going to put in a 0. Put in your end parentheses. So before you complete the formula, notice the screen tip and the cell selected in the colors. If you move the mouse pointer to each of the arguments, they become a hyperlink. Okay, so each of those are different hyperlinks. We're going to press enter. Alright, when you press enter to complete the formula, it says take note, in some cases Excel completes the formula. In step 8, the closing parentheses was not added and Excel was able to complete the formula. Click cell H5 and use the fill handle to copy the formula from H6 to H11. In I5, we're going to type another if statement. Okay, so it should be equal sign if equal sign if $G $12. So we're doing a cell reference. If it equals yes, comma, then we're going to multiply F5 times D5. If it's false, we're going to return a value of 0. And then press enter. Okay. Then it says to use the fill handle in I5 to copy the formula to from I6 to I11. Alright, it says notice that Richard Carey, the senior partner, did not receive an agent bonus. So it says no right here, and there was no back office bonus. The final sale, final pending sale of $700,000 of the year came through. So in D5, we're going to change $3,200,000 to $3,900,000. Notice that H5 and the amounts in column I go from 0 to bonuses. So D5 went up, H5, he achieved his goal, and he got a bonus there. Okay. It says to go ahead and save your workbook. It should look something similar to this picture now that you change the actual sales to $3,900,000. So save, and we're going to leave the workbook open for the next exercise. Next, it says to click the Annual Sales Worksheet tab, and then click the Formulas tab if necessary. Step 2 says to click in cell B6, and in the function library we're going to choose logical, and this time we're going to choose the AND function. Okay, so the AND function returns true if all arguments are true and false if one or more arguments are false. The syntax is AND with logical 1 and logical 2. In this case, use the AND function to determine whether Fabricam's total annual sales meet the strategic goal and whether the sales goal exceeds the previous year's sale by 5%. So, in the logical 1 box, we're going to click in cell B16 and then type the greater than or equal to, and then select cell B3 and press enter. Okay, the argument represents the first condition. Did actual sales equal or exceed the sales goal? Which it did, because it was 11,000. So it returned a value of true. Next it says to click in cell C6, and we're going to use the same function. So you could use recently used, or you could click insert function and click AND. This time we are going to type C16 greater than or equal to, is it C3? So is our sales total greater than or equal to our goal of 12,000? We're going to click OK. Oh, no, we're not. And then in the logical 2 box, we're going to type C16 greater than or equal to B16 times 1.05 and then press tab. The preview of the formula returns true, which means that both conditions in the formula have been met. Okay, we're going to click OK to complete the formula, and it says to select cell C6. And you can copy the formula, or we can use the fill handle to copy it from D6 to F6. Now we're going to save the workbook. Okay. So as you can tell here, notice that, so we copied the formula. Year 3 and year 5 were false because the sales goal did not exceed the total sales did not exceed the sales goal. So yeah, save the workbook. Next we're going to be using the OR function. Okay, so it says although all arguments in an AND function have to be true to return a true value, only one of the arguments in the OR function has to be true for the function to return a true value. Okay, so next we're going to click on the performance worksheet to make it active, and we're going to select cell G5, and in the function library group we're going to choose logical, and we're going to select OR. The function argument dialog box opens. You create a formula that answers the following question: has Richard Carey worked with the company for less than 4 years? So in the logical 1 box, we're going to type B5. Is it less than 4? And then press tab. And in the logical 2 box, G5, does G5 equal no? With a capital N. And then press tab. This argument answers the second question: did Richard Carey not achieve the sales goal? Each of the arguments evaluates to false, and so the entire function evaluates to false. So we'll click OK, and we're going to select J5 and copy it through J6 through J11. Cell J7 is the first true box. To see the arguments, click J7 and click Insert Function. So, they have been here for more than 7 years, and they're G7 equals no, so they got a true. Alright, click OK to close the dialog box, and we're going to save this workbook, and we're going to close this worksheet. Alright, so next we're going to be using formulas to modify text. It says to open up in our data files 10 Fabricam alarm codes, and then we're going to save this document to our lesson 10 folder as alarm code solution. Okay. So we're going to be converting text to columns and using different functions to help us do this. So figure 10-13 shows what the file looks like before you convert the rows to columns. And figure 10-14 shows the same after the conversion. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna convert it to that. So it says to select cells A2 through A8, just right here. And we're going to then click the Data tab, and in the Data Tools group, we're going to click on Text to Columns, which is right here. Okay, the Convert Text to Columns wizard opens with delimited selected as the default because Excel recognizes the data in the selected range as separated with commas. Says to click next to move to the next step, and we're going to select comma as the delimiter. If other delimiters are checked, deselect them, and then we're going to click next, and we're going to click finish. Okay, it says the data is separated into 7 columns. To help identify the columns, we're going to type text shown in row 1 of figure 10-14. To help identify the columns, let's see, we're going to then apply the heading 3 style to the range A1 through O1. So you might want to make this a little bit bigger so you can see what it is showing. So in A1 I'm going to type extension code employee ID, okay, and then SP first, SP last, higher, date, alarm, O code 1, then O code 2. Okay, and then so I'm going to convert this range here to a heading 1 style. So we'll go to heading styles and heading 3. Okay, and then it says you will add data to columns H through O and later exercises. Increase the column widths of A through G as necessary so you can see all of the cell content. So double click to make sure you can see everything. Okay, and then save the workbook. Alright, we're going to use the left function. So we're going to click in cell H1 and we're going to type EXT extension, and then in I1 we're going to type floor to label the columns. Okay, it says to select H2, and we're going to click the Formulas tab, and in the text group we're going to choose the left. Okay, the function arguments dialog box opens, and in the text box we're going to click in A2 and then press tab. And then in the number characters box we're going to type 3 and then press tab. Okay, the preview of the result shown is 425. It says to click OK and double click on the fill handle in the lower right corner of cell H2 to copy the formula down. Alrighty, let's see, it says to select I2 next, and we're going to use recently used and choose left at the top. In the text box it says to type A2 and then press tab. oops, not caps lock, tab. And then in the number of characters box, we're going to type 1 and then click OK. And then copy the formula in I2, so you can double click on the fill handle, and then we are going to save our workbook. And it says to leave the workbook open. Next we're going to be using the right, okay? Right formula. So the left formula function evaluates a string of characters in any number on the left side of the string. The right is going to be the opposite. So it's going to evaluate the numbers on the right side. So in J1 we're going to type birthday. And in K1 we're going to type employee ID. Alright, so in J2, we're going to click the Formulas tab, and then we're going to choose Text, and we're going to select Right. So in the text box, it says to click E2, and then we're going to press the Tab key. And then in the numbers character box, we're going to choose 3 and then press Tab. The preview result should show April. Okay, we're going to click OK. Alrighty, and then copy the formula down, so you can just double click to add those all in. And then in K2, we're going to type equals right, hit the tab key, and then A2, comma 5. So over in column A, the last 5 digits of that employee code were the employee ID. So we will put in the end parentheses and then press enter. Okay, and then we're going to copy that one down. Okay, using the fill handle. So we're going to save the workbook. It says to pause, leave the workbook open to use in the next exercise. So next we're going to we're going to be using the mid function. So whereas left and right return a number of characters on either side of a string of text, mid returns characters in the middle. Okay, so in L1 we're going to type in employee cat1, and in M1 we're going to type employee cat2. Okay, so in L2 we're going to click the Formulas tab, and then under Text we're going to now choose Mid. Alrighty, and then in the text box we're going to type A2 and then press Tab. A2 and press Tab, and then the starting point for employee cat1 value is the 4th character. So we're going to type in 4. And then under number of characters we're going to type 2. The preview of the result shows 00. Alright, so we're going to click OK, and we're going to copy the formula down. Alrighty. Alright, next we're going to click in cell M2 and we're going to type in the following formula: equal sign mid tab parentheses A2 comma 6 comma 2 and parentheses, and we're going to press enter. So it returns these middle digits over here out of this cell. We're going to go ahead and copy that down, and we're going to save our workbook. Alright, next we're going to be using trim for our formula. Alrighty, so it says sometimes there are extra spaces in a cell, either at the end or at the beginning of a string, especially after converting a text file like the alarm file. The trim function removes characters at both ends of a string. Alrighty, so in cell N1, we're going to type first, and in let's see. Oops, sorry, here, let's go back here. So yeah, in N1 we're going to type first, and in O1 we're going to type last. So in N2 it says to click the formulas tab, and then we're going to click text, and we're going to choose trim. Alright, in the text box we're going to type B2. It says if you look closely you see the original value of B2 is David with a space before the name. Okay, so we're going to click OK. Alright, and then we're going to copy the formula from N2 to N8, and then we're going to select cell O2, and we're going to type equal sign trim parentheses C2, and then press enter. And we're going to copy this formula down as well. So basically what we just did was trim that space off of the front. Alright, save your workbook and pause and leave the workbook open to use in the next exercise. Now we're going to be using proper. So the proper function capitalizes the first letter in a string of text and any other letters in the text that follow any character other than a letter. So all other letters are converted to lowercase. In the proper text syntax, the text can be text enclosed in quotations, a formula that returns text, or a reference to a cell containing text that you want to capitalize. In this exercise, you will use proper to change lowercase text to initial capitals. So it says to click in cell A11, and we're going to type first. And then in B11 we're going to type last. In C11 we're going to type birthday to label the columns, and we're going to apply the heading 3 style. And you know what, while we're at it, we're going to apply heading 3 style to these as well. I think earlier I didn't quite take this out far enough. Okay. So we're going to click in cell A12, and then we're going to click the formulas tab. We're going to choose text, and then we're going to select proper. which is right here. Okay. It says in the text box, we're going to click in cell N2. And you see that David is converted to a capital David. Click OK. And copy the formula in A12 through B18. Alright, for both first and last name columns. Let's see here. Okay, next we're going to click in cell C12 and we're going to type =, proper, hit the tab key, and then we're going to type in J2 and press enter as well. Okay, so April should now be capitalized. You can fill handle that down to copy it, and we're going to save the workbook, and it says to close the file. Okay, so next we're going to be using Uppercase. So we want to open up the Fabricam Alarm Codes 2 document, which is basically an exact replica of the last document. Always click Enable Editing, slide that back over. We're going to be using the upper function, which allows you to convert text to uppercase or all capital letters. The syntax is upper parentheses text, with text referring to the text you want to convert to uppercase. So we need to file, save this as in our lesson 10 folder, alarm codes, solution 2. And we're going to click in cell D11 and type mcat1, and then in E11 mcat2 to label the columns. We're going to click in cell D12. Using the Formulas tab, we're going to click the function library, choose text, and we're going to select upper. Alright, in the text box, we're going to type L2 or select L2. And you see that the little lowercase o's are converted to capital O's. We'll click OK. And we're going to copy the formula in D12 to D18. Okay, and then we're going to also do that for the following over here for column E. So both of those letters are capitalized. We're going to save. Next, we're going to be using lowercase. So in F11, we're going to type O code 1, and in G11, O code 2. For our labels, click in cell F12, use the Formulas tab, go to text. This time we're going to choose lower. And we're going to put in F2 for our text. And we're going to click OK. So you see that the O's are kind of swapped around. It's converted to capital O's instead of lowercase and zeros. Alright, we're going to click OK, and we're going to copy the formula in F12 through G18. So copy it that way, and then we can fill handle it to the right. It says to save the workbook. Alright, so it looks weird because some of these are zeros and some of these are O's. And the zeros don't really change, but the O's do. Okay, so those are zeros and O's, not just capital O's, lowercase O's. Using concatenate, in some cases you need to combine text strings together, so you use the concatenate for this purpose. In this case, you combine the first and last names into two different formats for future mail merges. In this first format, you use the comma to separate the first and last name because the character can change to a semicolon or other character. Alright, so in cell H11, we are going to type a comma followed by a space, and in I11 we're going to type first, last to label the columns. Alrighty, and in H12 we're going to click the formulas and then go to text group, and we're going to choose concatenate. And in the text box, we're going to type B12 and then press the tab key. And then in H11, let's see. So we're going to click in H11 and then press tab and then click in cell A12. So we have B12 and then the comma and then A12. Okay, so it should look something like the string, the preview areas should say Ortiz, comma, David. Okay, we'll click OK. And then we're going to copy the formula down. Okay. The result is incorrect. Notice that the string gets longer and longer, and Ortiz is in every string. So if you see, Ortiz is down through all of the whole string. Okay, so we're going to click in cell H12 and click Insert Function. And we're going to click the cell H11 and we're going to add a absolute cell reference by clicking the F4 key on your keyboard. Okay, when you click the F4 key, it automatically adds those dollar signs. So cell H11 should become $H $11. Okay, we're going to press enter. Alright, and now we're going to recopy this down. Okay, that fixes the problem, and now we should see all of the cells in there correctly. We're going to click in cell I12, and this time we're going to type in $, concatenate, hit the tab key once that pops up, A12, comma, parentheses, space, quotation, space, quotation, comma, B12, and then parentheses. So what we're doing here is we are taking A12, putting in a space, and then putting in their last name. Okay, and we're going to press enter to copy, and then we're going to copy the formula down. Okay, notice that the second argument is a quote, space quote. This separates the first and the last name. Press enter and copy the formula in cell I-12 down. We did that. And we're going to apply heading 3 to D11 through I11. So let's go to the Home tab, Cell Styles, heading 3. And widen the columns as necessary to display all the data. So I know that this one and this one both need to be widened. So it says that your worksheet should look similar to figure 1015. And I would say that ours does. So I'm going to hit the Save button. And it says to close the workbook and close Excel. We are done with lesson 10. Great job.